right back here live, Studio WLCN, program Viewpoint, program Personality, Politicians, and Perspective. We've changed a couple of the personalities. We've switched to Darlene Bagoka and brought in Dan Tackett, commonly known as Fiddler by some of his close friends. Glad to have Dan in with us this morning. As we know, we've been discussing our Railsplitting Festival, and John has got something he particularly wants to cover, and then I want to get back to Dan and talk about this Bluegrass Festival and so forth. So, John, I'll pass the ball to you, the baton. You now have it.
Okay, we're going to try something new, and this is for kids of all ages. And the reason I say all ages is because where I got the idea, the little kids had trouble keeping their parents' hands out of their projects. So if the parents want to do this, start your own project. Let the kids do their thing. But it's an exercise in creativity. But the project is called Prairie Places, and it's kind of a takeoff on what they do out on the East Coast, which is called fairy houses. And the fairies would reside in these little natural houses. Well, I twisted around a little bit and turned it into prairie places. And these are places where spirits of the prairie will live. And these are the spirits that are in your heart as you come west, as you settle. Mm-hmm. And there's good and bad spirits. There's fortitude and strength and courage and things. But there was also greed. So these are all different spirits. You pick a spirit, and then you build a little house for it, and it's all natural materials. We provide all the materials. All you do is show up and work with your little design team to come up with what the little house that you're going to do. And these will be small, 6 inches, 8 inches, 10 inches tall, little places.
Yeah.
But it's the house that the spirit would reside in, waiting for somebody to come by the path, and then that spirit will go out and attach themselves to that person.
Interesting.
So it's the spirit that you give from your heart to them.
Huh.
That's kind of neat.
That's kind of neat. Well, that's original.
Yeah,
if I had a hat on, I'd doff it.
The hardest thing is going to be that since it's an exercise in creativity, you can't direct the person building the house. You can say, what are you going to use that for? How would you use this? For instance, a flower turned upside down might be a lampshade, or a little acorn cup might be part of a table, or something on. But they're all natural. It's things that the spirits would find naturally out on our prairies, and they would build a little house to sit beside, wait for somebody to come by to attach themselves to.
What are the age groups in this, John?
Big enough to do something until you're too old to get up off the ground.
Some of us are getting there.
The down isn't hard, it's the up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why I say, because I have seen where the kids would get down and they would start to build something, and the parents say, no, honey, do this. Yeah. No, parents, you go build your own.
Okay.
Let the kid. There's no wrong answers. It's a creative exercise for whatever spirit you choose.
And is this at a particular time, or times, plural, out there?
All day, both days.
I see.
And we will have backgrounds, which will be bales, fence panels, logs. There will be stuff laying out there, and you just go out and pick your spot and build your little house, and people can wander through and look at them.
That's interesting.
And that'll be Saturday and Sunday.
Saturday and Sunday.
Wonder what my spirit would do.
Oh, let's not go there.
Don't go there. And beyond that, you had a couple of pages there that you wanted to be sure and touch, John.
I want to be sure that they know that the Old Time Bike Show is coming back down at the KC building, at the south end.
Old Time Bicycles now.
That's Saturday only.
Mm-hmm.
And then there will be a play called Pleasant Sage that'll be at 5 o'clock up there right behind the mural.
Mm-hmm.
And when that lets out, then there's a barn dance after that that starts from like 7 to 10. So Saturday is going to be a long
We
day.
can do that, since.
We can do that.
Let's talk about admission. There's no admission charge? Or
Yeah,
there is a modest, very modest admission charge.
I think it's 3 for single and 5
my.
for a family or something like
Yeah,
that.
that's very, very
right.
modest, yeah.
3 and
Okay.
5, yeah.
Well, now, Mr. Tackett,
Yeah.
Morning.
have you recovered from your retirement yet at this point in time? And you have a new
It's so far
project?
behind me, I forgot all about it.
Well, it's a good thing. You earned it, my boy.
Thank you.
Tell us a bit about the bluegrass business that you're going to have on site out there. Take it from the top, as they say in showbiz.
All right, well, maybe I can best illustrate it. I have a friend in Michigan who's interested in coming down, and he was asking me if I had more details. And I replied to him saying, if this were a business proposition, I'd say to you, how'd you like to get in on the ground floor of this thing? Because we really don't know what to expect. We're hoping to get a lot of bluegrass musicians from the area. I have some friends coming from out of state who play, and I think John and other festival organizers are envisioning enough people to kind of have different groups scattered around the grounds out there during the festival.
The fact that you may draw from all around, we just don't know how many you may drop in.
Exactly.
Just jump in and sit down like they do on jazz gigs. They get in there and play a little while, and then somebody else takes their place or whatever.
Right.
I like to remind the folks in my age that, and there are still a few of us out there, that the big band and jazz things weren't the only great pieces of music to come down the pike.
Exactly.
This is another art form in the musical world that has a pretty good following.
It does. It really does. I think a lot of people would be surprised, and the bluegrass industry itself has kind of changed through the years. I think one thing that's helped them is the advent of new country, which arguably really isn't country. So people who still long to hear that have actually turned to bluegrass, and bluegrass in turn is kind of catered somewhat to that crowd by playing some classic country stuff in their repertoires and everything. And you might be surprised to hear that one of my favorite bands out of Chicago called Special Consensus just does a killer instrumental version of Blue Skies. You know, so they do a lot of different things in bluegrass too.
I think we should say that don't expect to bring your own grass to the Bluegrass Festival. That's not going to be allowed.
Absolutely not.
What are the differences, when you think about the big band era?
Okay.
And you had a drummer, you probably had a saxophone, maybe a trumpet. What are the different instruments that you would have playing bluegrass?
Kind of the staple instruments is a rhythm guitar, of course, stand-up bass, all acoustic instruments, I might add.
All strings, most of them.
All strings, mandolin, banjo, fiddle, and occasionally dobro, which is kind of a forerunner of a pedal steel guitar. It's played with a slide.
Okay.
But not the normal rhythm section, or like we'd have in piano drums, and so that's not bluegrass.
Yes and no, because
really?
Obviously all music has to have a rhythm section. In a bluegrass band, it's your bass, of course, your rhythm guitar, and the mandolin, who provides what they call a chop, an afterbeat chop, which is the snare drummer of bluegrass music.
Okay. All right, there's your analogy.
Interesting.
There's your analogy. Let us go back here to John. Tell us when the gates open. Give us the dates here. We're right on top of this in a couple of days here, this being Wednesday. Hard to believe.
Well, it'll be our Civil War Ball is the 14th, this coming Friday, 7 to 10 out at the Rec Center.
Mm-hmm.
But the main festival at the fairgrounds is 15th and 16th, Saturday and Sunday, and it's 10 to 4 both days.
Mm-hmm. So you don't have to be an early riser, although it's interesting to go out there early and see some of these folks going to have a little cooking demonstrations and so forth out there, as they have in the past.
Well, during the day, yeah, they'll be cooking full time. We've got regular concessionaires, but we've also got cooking demonstrations going on in the village.
Mm-hmm.
I was going to say, we talked about stone soup. I know a lot of times there's kettle corn out there. There's apple butter.
Yeah, Judy will be doing apple butter again. Concessionaires, we got 2 people coming in with a full menu. The fudge people will be out there. Ice cream is going to be out there. Delicious ice cream.
I don't know, I was thinking delicious fudge.
Yeah.
Dan, tell us the hours when we have the Bluegrass entertainment.
That's an interesting question because
we're open on that.
I talked to John before, and jammers who go to bluegrass festivals aren't known to be real early risers, but they're also known to sit up and play at night till the sun comes up.
Yeah.
So we expect to have some music, hopefully at 10 o'clock in the morning, probably pick up quite a bit afternoon, and hopefully pick up in the evening after the crowd's gone. I think you'll see a lot of bluegrass jamming then as well.
Well, that's true about those musicians and their hours. Several years ago, since some friends of ours joined us, we went to St. Louis for a weekend, and there happened to be a national banjo convocation down there at the very hotel where we stayed. And we were out there, walked in, and they were sitting around in the lobby and began to jam. And they had a piano in there, moved in. Well, we stayed up to 3 in the morning. Listen to those guys,
Right.
And they were just outstanding, and not a lick of music in front of them. They just get up there and played.
Right.
And it's
Well, I
just
think a pretty good indication. They have a very sizable, very popular bluegrass festival indoors in Springfield in November at the Crown Plaza every year.
Oh,
And the promoters of that festival rent a huge ballroom down on the first floor, and it's called the Picking Room, and it's where people go to jam, and it's open 24 hours a day.
yeah. The interesting thing about those sessions is that Dan Tackett can just step in there and seamlessly play with Sense and John and George and whatever, and then pretty soon John will slip out of there, and somebody will slip in and take their place, and they just move in and move out like water
And it's
flowing.
interesting because they have not played together, maybe don't even know each other, and yet the music is gorgeous.
Yeah, that's very typical of the Bluegrass Festival. And through the years, we go to a big Bluegrass Festival in Indiana every June, and you see people one time a year at that festival, but we also develop just great friendships and kinships.
It's like this National Banjo Association. Those folks travel all over heck and back
Exactly.
to meet, and then subsequently, a year later, we went down to Eureka Springs, Arkansas for their national, and we had a heck of a time down there.
Right. And you know, along those same lines, I'd like to extend an invitation to all acoustic musicians. We don't care what your level is. If you know a G, C, and D chord, that's good enough to get you by in a lot of songs and everything. And we're hoping to get a lot of those people out there. Bluegrass is nothing to be intimidated by.
So if somebody out here in the ether world were thinking of the I can't do that, I'm not good enough, that not may be the case. They can come out there and join
Exactly.
in, and if they're having any shortfalls, it'll be overcome by the rest of the professionals.
Right. My friend Ron Keller at Lincoln College might fit in slot.
Well, I'll have to put
Because I invited him to come out, and he says, he says, I'm just really learning guitar. I don't know if I could keep up. And I said, hey, come on out, and we'll make sure you keep up. So we're hoping a lot of those kind of folks come and participate, because bluegrass is people music.
It's another added attraction, as they say, for the Railsplitter Festival, John. This is something we have not had before. This might turn out to be a big attraction for us out there. Might be interesting.
It's the people's music, and it's all very simple. Being all acoustic, we don't have to worry about electricity. We don't have to worry about stage lights.
Yeah.
Time limits, things like that.
Now, where will you be playing? At what venue out there at the fairgrounds?
Actually,
To be determined.
It is to be determined. We've never done it before.
Wherever two people come together.
Right.
Okay.
But we are having a stage set up out there, and I think the North Exhibition Building.
Yeah.
And we're going to try to keep that stage filled with groups, whether they're organized groups or jammers who'd like to get up and perform using a PA system in front of folks.
But if you
Well,
really...
it sounds like it's just kind of going to be up for grabs depending on how many show to play. We could have 10 groups.
Exactly.
Oh, yeah.
All around the fairgrounds and one in the North Building, and then because you say you can sit with this group and decide I'm done with this group, I'm going to go play with another one, the stage people will constantly change.
We're hoping so, yes.
Yeah, we have sitting areas so that whenever two or three of these people are walking around, they decide to sit down and play. That's where it happens.
Now, from an economic standpoint, John and Dan, down through the years, this festival has drawn a number of people from all around the state. And comment on that, when did this thing first, how many years have we been doing this now?
This is the 42nd.
Think of that.
42 years.
Think of that. 42 years of this tradition. That's pretty remarkable. Over that 42 years, we've drawn a significant amount of tourist dollars into this town.
Most festivals will last 4, 5, 6, 7 years. If a festival lasts 10 years, it's doing really well.
Yeah, that's
and we're at
interesting.
42.
Well, and I think it's because we keep changing it. We find what works and what doesn't work. Let's try something new. This year we have the bluegrass, we have the play.
The play is new this year.
You know, if I could interject something along those lines, this will not be my first year of playing music out there. I've gone out several years and jammed with smaller groups that have shown up. And I think John would agree, reluctantly or not, that the crowd has really dropped off the past 4 or 5 years. And that's just, to me, that's shameful, because that's a great festival. As a matter of fact, some of the people that I've invited down are going to camp overnight, and they're really anxious to bring their families down, because I've tried to pitch the family aspect. I mean, there's just some great old-time pioneering demonstrations going on and everything, and it'd really be nice to see the hometown folks get out there and support this festival like they used to.
That's a real, very important comment, Dan. Appreciate your mentioning that. You know, right here in our own backyard.
Exactly.
Doesn't take very much to get there. A few minutes and you're there. An enjoyable time. We can guarantee it.
And cheap.
Yeah. So, Judy, since and
Bring your children. Bring your grandchildren. This is a live history lesson. It's seeing things that you're not going to have a chance to see. There's new things.
Exactly.
It's an opportunity, and you don't have to go very far.
Right, and this is not like the fair or the balloon festival, where you got to spend a lot of money on carnival rides, everything else, you know, to keep your kids happy. It's all free once you get in the grounds, and what is it, 12 and younger are free.
And grandparents, it might be a nice thing to take a little time and take your grandchildren out there. This is a real part of Americana.
Right.
Things just didn't happen overnight that we're in such a technical world. Things were a lot different back there. We need to bring this thing to a close now because we've run out of time. We appreciate the presence of Darlene Bogolka, who had to leave and go back to work, and we appreciate Fiddler, you're being with us today.
Thank you very much. I don't have to go back to work, by the way.
Isn't that nice, Dan? Isn't that wonderful?
Yes.
Have you had your try at fishing yet?
No, not yet.
And John Sutton, we appreciate not only your coming with us today, but there are a lot of things done in this area behind the scenes that John's involved with. So we thank you very much for that,
Well,
John
thank
Sutton.
you for having me.
We were supposed to talk a little bit about tourism, but I did come up with a closing comment about tourism, and I said, a tourist is a person who travels to find things that are different, and then complains when they find that they are different. All of us who have traveled have found people like that. Thank you for Viewpoint.